Hi there, it's Rebecca Otten over at Bravo Intimates in Metro Detroit, and we are doing one of our fitting room chats today where we go in depth on a topic that is very near and dear to everyone in the intimate apparel industry and really benefits the customers or the laymen out there. And our guest today is FREDERIKA ZAPPE. She is the National Fit Director over at EVEDEN, and they are the proud manufacturers of Freya and Fantasie, Elomi, and Goddess. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
I know.
It's an interesting one.
It is. And we've been talking about it, you and I, for
many years, actually.
Yeah, we don't have to put a year to it, do we? But I mean, today's fitting room chat subject is demystifying the double D cup. You know, it's just amazing. Before I came to this industry, if somebody had said, you know, because I came to this industry from cosmetics and ready to wear, and if people had said, oh yeah, she's a double D, you just envision this really full busted, buxom woman. And then once I came to the industry and I saw that double D is really not that big, and why as Americans do we utilize that term and throw it around? Oh, she was a double D. You'll hear it on, you know, funny radio stations. You'll read about it, you know, in Playboy. She was a double D, you know, and women. I would say the women's magazines are just as guilty as the men media, the males media. You'll read in Shape magazine or one of the magazines, they'll be reviewing different bras. Oh, here's the top 10 t-shirt bras for the spring. And this one goes all the way up to a double D. And it's like, that's nothing.
No, it's nothing. And as you know, I had the same experience when I started, because you and I kind of started around the same time.
You did.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was always, I would say, just shock when a woman was told in the fitting room that she was a D or a double D. A D? Oh my gosh, a double D. But I've been wearing a C all my life. See, I'm a C. Well, the fact is, you're not a C, you're actually a double D, or maybe an E or an F, but we're talking about double Ds, and you've always been a double D, or certainly, in the last year, and nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Exactly.
And really, it's completely meaningless, because as you
right.
Right? It's a D is not a D is not a D, because a D or a cup size is always, the size of the cup is always dependent on the size of the band.
Exactly. And so that's why I thought I would bring this. This is 30 double D. And I don't know if it shows all that well, you know, on video as well as it does personally. Yeah. If I saw this bra without a tag and I wasn't in this business, I would think this was a 34B or 32.
I was going to say, it looks like a 34B to me.
Yeah, and it's, you know, because this part is what's almost sitting under your arm, right? So that's not a lot of depth when you put my fingers next to it, right? But then you look at the 44 double D, and this again is the part that's under her arm. And there is what my finger would have been for the 30 double D. And here, this is a 44 double D. So, you know, I try to explain to people, they don't just take a double D and slap it on a band. It's all graded according to the band and the cup. I mean, they're two different measurements, and every size is unique to itself.
Exactly. And we were just discussing before, Rebecca, this whole idea of, I don't know where this came from.
I don't either.
Well, I think we're a little bit more open to things, and we know a little bit more than we did 20 years ago.
Right.
20 years ago, it was all about we didn't want to be too big. Nobody.
Minimizers were the big thing now.
That was the whole thing.
Like,
Oh, I need to be minimized. I need to be small. Why do we want to be small?
I
we
do
want to be bigger. Right? I mean, we do as people want to be big. You know, we want big emotions. We want a big intellect. We want a big life. Big is good, right?
Right. But certain parts of our body, because we're women, we don't want big. We don't want big. And we've been told, I think, by the media and the fashion pages that you should be this ideal size. And I do see that beginning to fade away, that we are more body type, body shape, body size inclusive today, which I think is a long time coming. It's been a very long time coming.
Yeah.
And
I'm really happy what's happened.
Right. And that's why I wanted to invite you on and have this fitting room chat about demystifying the double D. So like you said, people, you get a woman in the fitting room and you tell her what size, which I don't until the end. And she's probably, not even interested until she gets to the end. But I had a girl in the other day and, she came in and she said, I was out and about doing something and this gentleman was just staring at her bust the entire time. And she thought, my God, what is the matter with him, right? How rude, right? And then she got in the car and realized that her blouse wasn't buttoned up all the way. And she was showing, as she said, all my goods were hanging out. And I thought, oh my gosh. And the bra that she had on was at least 5 cup sizes too small. So I started out with, well, I don't want to shock her, but we're going to be going up a number of cup sizes. I mean, this bra that you're wearing is about 5 cup sizes too small. And I mean, the look on her face, she was absolutely floored. And I said, well, let's dive this down. Let's really get into it. From 1 cup size to the next is about a 1/4 inch. We're not taking a whole measuring cup and adding 5 cups to it, right? We're just gonna.
That's what people think, right? Yeah.
They do. And if we're here to micro fit you so that bra is like a second skin. It works and moves with you all day and you're not uncomfortable. Oh, okay. So when we got done fitting her, I said, so what size were you wearing? This is like the fun part, right? So we've educated her on how the bra should fit and she's all excited and she put her clothes on. She looks better than ever. She's like, I actually look smaller in the cup. I'm like, well, it's amazing. When you get things lifted to where they're supposed to be and they're not migrating down here, you do look slimmer. Everybody's waist looks slimmer when you're lifted into the right size. And so she told me she had walked in a 38 double D, of course, because that's the size that she could get anywhere. So we knew, and I said to her, you knew that you weren't going to be a double D, right? Because that's what she came in wearing. It wasn't working. And she was like, yeah. And I said, well, I've got you in a 36 double G. And she I thought she was going to have a coronary, right? And it's like, so what? Yeah. It fits. You look great. Yeah, I mean, it took her a minute. She was probably more with it than some, and it took her a minute. And, she walked in wanting a t-shirt bra, and she walked out with everything but the t-shirt bra.
Oh, isn't that wonderful when that happens? It's just such a great moment. And actually, I love that aha moment, which I'm sure that she had, right? It's double G for double gorgeous. Right? And just the fact that obviously she was when she walked in, but my goodness, she looks like $1 million. And all we're doing when we talk about a cup and a band and the letter and the number is we are just expressing the size. That's all it is. It's you and I talking amongst each other with the letter and the number, so that we can go and get a particular size because we know what that means, right? It doesn't have anything to do with what you walked in with. It's just a way of describing that so we can get something to fit you. That's it. So if it were up to me, I would get rid of the letter and the number, really, which is why we talk about just what needs to happen, the 3 points of fit. Get rid of the letter and the number. it really is meaningless because, as we were also talking before, every brand runs differently. And so you might be a double D in one brand, and you might be even a triple D or an F in another brand.
So true.
Not even to mention the fact that all brands, depending on where they're manufactured or where the brand is from, describe size in a different way.
They do. And I think that's the most confusing. I'll have women say to me, well, what size am I in a normal bra?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an abnormal bra? I mean, what I understand the question, but I'm just like, I'm always trying to reset the mindset,
Yeah.
you know, because we are professionals. You would not go to a non-professional to get your glasses. You'd go to a professional. So why not go to a professional bra fitting store, right? And I said, in a normal bra. Well, what's a normal bra? Like, what kind of, well, what would I be in a US? Okay, so there's US sizing, there's UK sizing, and there's European sizing. And you have to translate amongst those fitting charts to get the right size. So I still see people think, well, I live in the US, so I'm just going to order US size. And it's like, no. You might live in the US, and I get that. So do I. But if you're in the US and you're going to talk French, you'd probably, if you don't speak French, you need a translator. And that's what the conversion chart is a translator. So if you're in the US and you know your US size, you use that conversion chart to find what you would be in the European size or what you'd be in the UK British size. And those are the sizes that you order. And they don't get it. It's like, why isn't it easier? I said, well, it's not like the Germans call the French and say, hey, how are you sizing this, right? No, everybody does their own thing.
They don't care about them.
Exactly. They're not talking.
No. But that's why, as you say, it's just easier to go to someone who knows what they're doing, really.
Exactly.
It cuts out a lot of the back and forth and am I doing it right? Is it, and it takes a lot longer. Right?
Absolutely.
Just give me something that please fit me. Give me me.
Right.
A new person.
I had a lady in, and this was a couple years back, and it struck me. And she comes in and she's like, oh gosh, I'm exhausted trying to do this myself. Can you fit me?
Yes, exactly.
You're in the fitting room, you do the measurements. I get her into a bra, and she's like, oh my God, this fits. Like the first bra. And I'm thinking, well, I've been doing this for a while. If I couldn't do it 10 times faster than you on your own, then I really wouldn't be a professional, right? So she's like, God, this really fits. Do you know, I spent 2 hours at this XYZ department store trying on every bra in the department. I said, oh, well, what were you trying? And she's like, oh, I was trying a 40C. I said, you could try every 40C in the nation and it would never fit. It's like Cinderella. It's never going to fit because you're a 36 double D. And she had the same reaction. I can't be a double D because she's envisioning this, which is a double G. And I was like, again, with the terms in the US, they don't have this problem in Europe. I was trained in Europe. You were trained in Europe. And you go over there and say double D, and they're like, oh, all right, And this bra goes up to a J cup. So double D is where it starts. And it is such a misconception in the US that we're still perpetuating this double D is enormous.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And it's high time that we broke through that, right? And I think we were talking before that now really the average size in the US is a 34 triple D.
So they
say, right?
So they say.
And you and I know that cup size and maybe even that band size is about 2 or 3 cup sizes bigger than that. That is the average, right?
Right. I challenge that. I challenge that because where are they finding the data? They're finding the data through sizes sold. Okay, so that's the #1 selling size maybe. But we do know that about 90% of women are wearing the wrong size. It used to be closer in my day when I first started in this industry. I swore it was more like 99%, but more women are getting with it. They're getting fitted. They're wearing the right size. And I think comfort has kind of driven that in education and, you know, places like this. So it's more about 90% of women are still wearing the wrong size. So then they're buying the wrong size, which is driving that data.
Exactly. And even with that though, it's the average size.
Right. So half are over.
People thinking, oh no, I'm not a D. I'm certainly not a double D. And a triple D. I'm not even either, right?
Right.
So, you know, I think if going, well, we obviously, you know, we work with a lot of specialty stores, and that would be considered not even average. I mean, average to us and what we sell the most of is between a 34 double F and a G, really.
Right. I think that's
your meat and potatoes right there every day, right? That's kind of average.
And because we're throwing those letter and number combinations around that people have never heard of, so they're not comfortable with it, they think that, oh, that can't be me. That's nobody I know. That must be very specialized people that go to that place.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, these are mainstream people that are walking up and down the street. That's your bank teller. That's the person that's waiting on you in a clothing store. That's the woman sitting behind the desk at the reception in the doctor's office. These are women every day, everywhere. I mean, we have such, probably more than any other country in the world, we have such a cross section of nationalities that have called home here in the US, and we've all kind of mixed. And so now we have more body shapes and types and sizes than almost any other place on earth. How could we all be a 34B, right? It's just, it doesn't make sense if the number one selling clothing size is a 12. So, yeah.
Yeah, don't forget, I think it's even 14 and above, right?
I believe it.
That's the most common size. That's the size that we are.
Yeah. And I don't think that 90% of them are walking around in the wrong size dress or jeans. And I don't think that 90% of them are walking around in the wrong shoe size. But 90% of them are still walking around in the wrong bra size. It's such an emotional part, this part of the body, that I just can't be. And that's why I wanted to bring you on and talk about demystifying the double D so that women can go in and free themselves from ill-fitted bras and get themselves into something comfortable that's going to make them look better. And if you are self-conscious, I have quite a few women say, I'm very self-conscious about how busty I am. And it's because so many men look at them here instead of up here when they greet them. And so it's just, we are a boob culture over here in the U.S.
We always have been. Yes, I don't think that that's going away anytime.
I don't think so either. But I would like to stress that when they get fitted in the right size, so many women remark, oh my God, I look so much smaller.
Yeah, and I love that, and it's true. I still want to get away from the idea that smaller is better. There's just something about that irks me.
Yeah.
It really is now, because we are really completely inclusive.
Yeah.
And it's women who beat themselves up more.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. I said, nobody beats themselves up like a woman in a fitting room.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I know that I do it. It's like, a dear friend of mine said, you know, he would look in the mirror and he would go, who did this and ran, right? And I feel like that.
We do. I think we have been trained. And, you know, I have a very young daughter, and I don't take home Vogue magazine or Shape magazine or any of those things. And, you know, I'm always, you know, talking about my curves, and I'm enhanced, you know, I'm just embracing my curves, you know, and I think she has a much more positive body image than I did at her age. And my mom, you know, God bless her, was just, you know, you had to be a size 4 and that was the ideal. And if you didn't, you needed to go on the grapefruit diet for a week and get with it. And we just don't do that anymore. And I think that's a step in the right direction. And, you know, take the number out of it, like you said. And when I get somebody in the fitting room and I start from scratch and I'm working with them, you know, what size am I? What size am I? I always say, you know, it's like jeans and it's like shoes. You could wear a couple different sizes. So let's get something on that fits and let's start talking about fit. And then I educate her on how it should fit and where it should sit and how to take care of it. By the end of the fitting process, she's like, wow, I look great. I look so much smaller. My shoulders feel incredible. I feel like this relief and this freedom. And then she'll say, what size am I? You know, and it's like 45 minutes later. And I always say, oh, you're a 32B. And she goes, I can't be a 32B. I said, no, you're not a 32B. You know, you're a 34G. What's that? I go, it's a G.
Yeah. And does it matter? No.
Doesn't matter. And that's what she says.
Yes. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, everything seems to be in proportion too, right? When you're in a bra that fit. All of a sudden, your breasts, no matter what size they are, just seem to go with the rest of your body,
exactly.
You know, as if magic again. So it's magic and a really good fitter.
A really good fitter, that's right. And you know, and just to touch on that minimizer, I still have a lot of women that say, I want a minimizer, I want a minimizer, I want a minimizer. And there are bras from various manufacturers that will do a little bit of compression, a little bit of minimizing. But I always say, careful what you wish for, because when you minimize this, you notice the tummy so much more. And yeah, so the curves, and you know, really embrace your curves.
And not only that, but remember, if you minimize, right, because breasts are really made up of fatty tissue, right, mostly fat. So when you bring it back, it has to go somewhere, and then it will get wider. So all of this is wider, which is not particularly youthful either in any way. It doesn't look, it takes the perkiness away, actually, right? Where
right,
in and up, and you know, just kind of bringing it in. So you may go a little bit like that, but this is wonderful stuff. What's wrong with that? Right?
It is. And you know, that's a really good point in that when it brings it back, then that underwire is very, very high because it's got to house all of that that's been pushed back. And that's the number one thing that women that wear minimizers complain about is, oh my God, this is so high under my arm, especially if she's short in the upper torso. So yeah, but you know, getting into a fitting store that carries at least 80 sizes, that has fitters on the floor that have been on the selling floor or on the fitting floor for 2 or more years is really the right place to start to get yourself fitting, because fitting is an art. It is not a science. We don't take a measurement and that's all you can be. That's the starting place. That's the place of where we're going to start in these hundreds of sizes in the back room. I've got to start someplace. That's where I'm going to start. Once I get it on and I see where her tissue falls and I see what, you know, frame her body is, then we begin the work and the education.
Yeah, exactly right. And as you say, you have so many styles to choose from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the world is your oyster. My goodness.
Right. Right. So I guess I would leave people with, if you think that you're a double D, I challenge you, go get fitted at a fitting store that specializes in fitting women day in and day out on the hundreds of styles and sizes. And if you swear you're not a double D and your wire does not lay flat, and it's so funny because I'll say to people, oh, is your wire laid flat? And then they start going like this. And they start shoving everything aside and pushing that. I said, does it lay flat? And it's like, no, now everything's bubbling out the top. It really doesn't lay flat. So either way, I challenge anyone who is not happy with their bra to go get fitted. And we'd love to hear comments from you as to what your experience is, what you found out, what you learned. If you want to share the size that you were wearing and the size that you walked out with, we'd love to hear that as well.
You know, I would also add to that is that if your bra is uncomfortable and you cannot wait to rip the thing off at the end of the day, it is not you, it's not your body, it's the bra. It's the wrong size, it's could even be the wrong style. And so I would say if you're not comfortable in your bra, go to a fitting store.
I agree. I agree, because it is an art. Go to the girl who chose this as her profession, because they are some of the most passionate people in the fashion industry. They love what they do. I mean, we're talking bras all day long, even when no one
gets old, does it? Never gets old.
Never gets old. We love what we do, and that's why we do it. And, you know, any good fitter is going to love to help you.
We've been having this conversation for over 20 years.
Oh, God, we're going to date ourselves.
Never gets old, though, right?
It never gets old. And I'm so happy that I landed in this part of the fashion industry, because I did not start out in this part of the fashion industry. I didn't, you know, mindfully think I would end up here. And I thought it was going to be a little short stay. And here it is almost, you know, 20 plus years later, and I would never go anyplace else.
Me too, right?
I know, funny as it seems. Here we are again.
Story, right?
Wow. Thank you so much for coming in and demystifying the double D, because it's such an important topic. And you know, I'm going to be calling on you again as, you know, the top, you know, fit expert in the industry to talk about other subjects that are as equally important.
Well, you're very kind, and as always, it has been my total pleasure, and I love this conversation.
Right.
And it will go on.
It will. It will go on. It will live on, and it'll be interesting to see what comments, questions, and feedback we get, and we'll share that again soon. So thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule in New York and joining us here in the Motor City.
Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, you know, one other point that, you know, I'd just like to do a little show and tell again is this 30 double D. If you look at the depth of that cup, right, and the band is really, really small, and then you look at this 36B, and the depth almost looks the same, but the band is very, very big, right? So you'll hear people say, oh, 34C and 36B are the same thing. And you and I know they are not the same thing. They're not the same size. They are totally different animals. You can't wear, you know, if you wear 34C, you don't go, oh, well, they're out of stock, I'll just take the 36B. It's not how it works.
No, it's not how it works. And so that is, you know, what you and I know as sister sizing. Mm-hmm. And really, the only reason that someone who actually cares about a perfect fit would do that is why, Rebecca.
Right. If let's say she's in between sizes, or this bra does tend to run small. If I fit her as a 30 triple D and I put this bra on and the 30 triple D is really tight in the band because it runs small. I mean, they're crafted by designers, not machines. So every bra fits different even within a company, right? Then I'm going to go up to the 32, but then that triple D would be too big in the 32. So that's when I drop down the cup size. Exactly. So if she's a 30 triple D and the band's too tight, I go to a 32 double D. And that's how that sizing works, that perimeter sizing works, as I was taught. Yeah, and
exactly, but it's nothing to rely on. Oh, it's the same. No,
it's not the same. They wouldn't manufacture the exact same size with two different labels. It's the same capacity, meaning that the same capacity fits in here, maybe a little bit more in the cup and the triple D and a little less in the band and the 30. But then you go to the 32, a little bit more in the band, and then the double D a little bit less in the cup. So it's the same capacity, but in different places. So
exactly.
That's how it works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in very basic terms, when you say capacity, the capacity of the cup, right? And so what changes is the band, but as we know, it's all important on the band. The band is important. Yeah?
It is. Because 90% of your support comes from the band, and that's why we do the band measurement first. Because that band measurement is where it all begins. Again, everything's sitting on it. Everything's relying on it.
Back to your Empire bra.
Back to my Empire bra. It can hold up the Empire without any strap because the band fits right. That's where you start. And, you know, I go on different sites and I see people, you know, making comments about bras and, oh, this doesn't fit right, or, you know, this runs small or this runs big. And it's like, again, this garment is a piece of art. And that designer has crafted it. And no, it's not going to fit like every other bra in that brand, because it could have been, you know, an assistant designer that finished it off or whatever. And that's what's so great about this industry, is that it's all unique. It's all personal. And when I get somebody who just doesn't fit into the standard in that brand, then I go and get that bra that runs just a little different and it fits perfect for her. And that's why bra fitting is an art, and I'm glad that it is. It's an art that we have a lot of women who are passionate about learning and being in this business and staying in it, and that's why customers get a really good fit.
Yeah. No, and I have to say, it's endlessly interesting, isn't it?
It is. It's fascinating. And just when you think you got it all down, you have a whole new season of bras coming out, and you got to learn them all. And we try them on, and we talk to each other about, it runs this way, it fits this way, it's this comfortable, the strap's doing this. I mean, we know how that bra is going to fit before we get in the fitting room with the customer.
Yeah. Endlessly exciting.
Endlessly. Fascinating business. Thanks.
Aren't we lucky?
We are. We
Yes.
are.